What's up, and welcome to another episode of Black in the Maritimes. And we have a friend of the show. We have Stacy Darku, a counselor, professional mental health expert. How you doing? Welcome back.
I'm doing well, and thank you for having me again.
Yeah, always. It's always nice to have you. I think we met at an incubator,
Mhm.
and we've been talking ever since, and since we get to the show. So today is gonna be different. We're not gonna talk about your life or your upbringing or anything like that because we already did that. If you haven't heard, you can go to our website, blackinthemaritimes.com, and you can check Stacy's profile. But we're gonna talk about mental health,
Mhm.
which is what Stacy is an expert like that. So. Uh, how have you seen, and from your particular experience, now that we are almost 2 years on the pandemic,
Mhm.
how have you seen this affected people's mental health right now?
Yeah, I think people are tired. I think that's pretty well the general consensus is that everyone is tired. It's almost like we're in Groundhog Day. So what I'm finding is that people are sadder, they're not motivated, lots of procrastination, lots of that feeling of hopelessness or helplessness is starting to creep in. So I think 2 years in, like people are just generally tired of it. They're tired of everything.
After 2 years of something that you don't expect, you can tell that it's tired, especially and for people that know, mostly us all live in Canada. That's where our main audience is. But for those that don't, Canada is a very cold country, and winter can be a little bit isolating and a little bit lonely. And plus a pandemic, I can definitely tell, like, even myself, it's just like it's not even a matter of vaccinations or political whatever that's going on. It's like, look, I just want to live my life like everybody else, right? I just want to get my job and do my
Mhm.
groceries. I'm trying to do that. So what have you seen? What are the trends have you seen with people? Are they suffering more for anxiety, depression? What tends
Mhm.
to be more going on?
Um, I think with my clients, I think I'm seeing a lot of maybe those low moods. I don't know if it's like specifically depression, but I would say definitely the low moods are starting to creep in. That negative self-talk are probably starting to creeping a little bit more, and some anxiousness. So that anxiety feeling of, that intense worry, like if am I going to get COVID? Everyone seems to be getting COVID around me. I don't want to socialize with people because I don't know where they've been going. So I would say those would probably be the main things, those low moods and that those feelings of anxiousness.
Oh, it's funny that you say that low moods, because I can tell you, for example, I know that the sun gives you a lot of vitamin D and stuff like
Mhm.
that, and going out and socializing, but it's beginning to be, like you said, Groundhog Day. That every day repeats the same, and then you got those extra things like, oh, it's winter, no sun coming out, or no,
Mhm.
not enough stuff. You can't go out, or because you're afraid of COVID, and I see especially on children, which is something that haven't seen in a while, that children are getting into this, and is that something that happens that it just transmits to the whole family, or is it something that just because of the situation and that everybody feels the same?
Yeah, I would say, I actually work as a play therapist as well. So I work with a lot of kiddos. And I will say it's probably like, they're seeing mommy and daddy or their caregivers kind of in the low moods. They can't really go anywhere to see their friends. They're kind of stuck home, maybe playing video games or just playing the same game over and over again. So I think, kids need, that social interaction. Social interaction is huge for kids, huge for the development. So kind of removing that piece and removing the idea of they can go outside and play and go visit their friends, is hard for them. It's quite hard. So it comes out in different behaviors. It may look like they're not motivated. They may talk back a little bit more. They may be a little bit cranky. So I think probably, everyone's feeling that cabin fever, as well. So I think it does transmit to the whole family unit.
Yeah, I think so as well. And again, I'm not a professional in any shape or form. But I seen the other day, I went out, and we went out to like this gathering, and they was the parents with the kids, and the parents, the first thing they did as a parent myself, they gave him a tablet or phone, and the kids were on the tablet and the phone like the whole. But in a period of time they were, but once they saw other kids, they kind of ditched the tablet and started playing. Like they
Right.
just started going around and stuff, and it's like, oh wow, this is like what normal a thing. Like it's kind of a normal thing for films with kids. And the other thing about the adults is the same thing. Everybody was kind of like you said, kind of wary with their mask, whatever. Then to a certain moment, it was like back to 2019, which is crazy to
Mm,
say that
yeah.
everybody talking and doing stuff, and I was like, whoa, I think that we haven't lost that, but what you said, people are more wary of it. The people are like,
Mhm.
oh wait, I want to make sure that they're vaccinated. So what do you tell people at those points when they're like they know they can do it, but they are just, because of the mindset that is right now, they're like kind of wary about it. What do you tell them in those situations?
Hmm. Well, I think there's a lot of things that, people can do to ease their anxieties. Self-care is the biggest one. So like you mentioned, that vitamin D, making sure you're sleeping well, making sure you're eating well can lift your moods. And also too is, having these conversations with your friends, saying to your friends like, hey, like, can you be in my bubble? Or like, I'm kind of worried about, COVID. Are you able to tell me like, do you hang out with a lot of people that are not vaccinated, or what does that look like? So having those open and honest conversations with people and then connecting with people, I think, is the biggest thing. Because if you don't ask the questions, if you don't set your own boundaries, like it kind of spirals into something else. So I think it is important for people to find ways outside of the whole COVID to create your own happiness, right? I think what's I'm noticing is a lot of people are dependent on the malls being open and the restaurants and the bars, but sometimes you do have to be creative and create your own happiness. And it may look like just, finding a bubble, doing something new that you've never done before, experimenting. Try not to get stuck, in that Groundhog Day, or stuck in that feeling of hopelessness and helplessness.
I mean, that's part of one of the things, like the fact that we have to be in a bubble, which is
Mhm.
crazy. It's like you gotta go like, can you be in my bubble? Which is it's kind of insane to say, but yeah, I think uh eating healthier and exercising, I think first personally has helped me, which
Mhm.
I haven't done in a couple of weeks, but who,
Mhm.
it's not about me. So but yeah, that's definitely I think something that helps a lot. And the other part is like I said, yeah, you gotta take care of yourself. That's a self-healing is something. Now, I also seen, and maybe this is something that you might seen as well. I also seen that uh with this COVID thing, I mean, which is kind of crazy. Like, yeah, we can go out, we can bars and stuff, but the liquor store is still open.
Mhm.
The liquor stores are still open, the supermarkets are still open, and streaming and all that stuff. Have you seen a shift of people, like, for example, that people are like maybe drinking more and doing self more harm stuff because of this type of complication? Because that's, I think a lot of it leads to that. Have you seen that trending within your base of clients?
I would say in the beginning of the pandemic, for sure. I think everyone was eating out, door dashing and going to the liquor store, and staying in when everything was locked down, because that's all we could have done. But I'm noticing now the shift of people being a little bit more health conscious, me being a little bit more cognizant of how much weight they gain or how much they're drinking a little bit more. So I would say in the beginning for sure, but now there's definitely been a lot of shifts.
Okay, so that's something that yeah, I also seen with Stats Canada that that a lot of things that I read is that people are going more to streaming and being more on social media, eating more, but I also one of the effects that has this thing is home violence is one of the things that
Mhm.
have done.
Yeah.
What would you say to somebody that has been in that situation, that they can't get out, they have, and they not necessarily, because when people think about domestic violence, they think about physical violence, but that's not necessarily the case. What other cases of domestic violence could be happening because of the pandemic that people have to stay home?
Yeah, so there's, like you said, physical violence, physical abuse is one type of abuse. There's emotional, mental, financial abuse, sexual abuse. And it can go into different type of subcategories with that. I actually work with perpetrators of domestic violence, and the numbers are increasing. Unfortunately, there's a lot of gender-based violence that's happening. That's really sad as well and unfortunate. And if someone is stuck in that situation, the biggest thing is find a connection outside the family unit. So if it looks like having a friend to talk to, if it looks like reaching out to the local organizations to chat with, having that talk and that space to kind of vent and debrief and share your emotions is huge. I would say it's really, really bad if you kind of self-isolate yourself, especially if you're in a violent home. And if you're finding it's too much, if it's too risky, and then it's time to call an emergency shelter or a family member that can help you leave. But I will say I agree, like with the pandemic, there's definitely, I would say, the numbers are rising when it comes to domestic violence.
Yeah, and it's sad to say it's the majority is women.
Mm,
That's the sad part. The majority is women, and it's a lot of it's a lot of that happening in different places in Atlantic Canada,
mm,
and across Canada as well. But when you say with shelters and things like that, that they are things that you can do. Would you also recommend like online groups? Because I've seen also that a lot of people have online groups and chats that they kind of able to vent. Is that another way, or do you think it's more proper to find maybe somebody close, like a family member
mm.
or like a friend?
Yeah. Yeah, I think online groups are great too. It really depends. Like, for example, if you have a family member and you're trying to talk to your family member with no judgment, that could be hard, right? That family member may say, "Oh, you need to leave. Like, you're the one that's doing this. Like, you're the one that's staying in this relationship." So it causes a lot of shame and guilt for the victim. So, online groups are really good because they're non-biased. You can hear stories, know that there's other people suffering like you are. If there's someone in your life that you can trust and feel safe talking to, that they're not going to judge you, like that's also really beneficial as well.
Okay, so yeah, I've seen that a lot on the Facebook groups and incredibly Twitter. That's a place that I'm like, oh wow, like I can't believe this is happening
Yeah.
on places like Twitter. That there's conversations going on, and the fact is that a lot of this is part of the online kind of trend of the pandemic, which is another effect. Like you and me are in Zoom right now, and a lot of people are afraid sometimes of going into therapy, but now they got Zoom. Like we can
Mhm,
do that. Like you do online therapy.
mhm,
Uh, is there any difference, or you think that people are getting the same type of results online, like via Zoom
mhm,
meetings, than in the personal, or you think it has kind of increased? Because a lot of people I know never went to therapy because it's like, oh, I don't want to go to an office, I don't want to go do this, I don't want to go do that. But now there's this. So has that improved within people's fear of going into counseling?
yeah, like I do both. I do online and in person. So what I'm noticing is that it's accessibility, right? So people that like and enjoy the online, they can do it in their car. They can do it like on their lunch break. If the kids are running around, they can kind of sneak in another room to talk. So accessibility wise, I think it's really beneficial. And then you have the other side of people where they want to do the in person because they miss that connection. So like we abide like the COVID regulations to make sure that we're in the same office together and things like that. So I think it goes both ways. I will see what we're noticing is that a lot of people are actually attending sessions. There's not as many no shows compared to if it was booked in person. So that's also a benefit as well.
So I think it's a better reach, right? Like if I'm having a crisis or something like that, I can just kind of
Yeah.
jump in and say that.
Yeah, I agree.
Y-
I agree.
Yeah, because I feel like now with the cell phone, like yeah, if I'm having anxiety and thing, and then I have a therapist or a counselor available, so just yourself, I can just say, hey, look, can we book a session? And if you're available, like instead of like waiting days,
Mm,
sometimes to meet somebody, which I think it's again, I think technology has been a gift and a curse
mhm.
for people. But I think also it has helped a lot of people that haven't been into counseling. And have you seen that? Have you seen new people coming in? Like I've never been to counseling before. Is that increasing in this field, or is it more of the same that people are still afraid to come in and, kind of, because again, it's hard to tell your problems to people and see how
Strangers.
can you do for other people.
Yeah, yeah. I would say a lot of people I've talked to have said, like, this is my first time in counseling and I don't know what to expect. I do get a lot of people of color, so that's why they're saying that. Like, I couldn't find a black therapist, and now I find one. So I find I'm getting a lot of that narrative of like, this is my first time coming in.
Which we're gonna get to that because we're black and it's called Black in the Maritime. So we're gonna go get into that right now. Like, what has been the stigma right now within people of color in Atlantic Canada? Like, what have you seen that has kind of been curious about, like, that this is new, or is it the same things like racism and things like that that they have to baggage of all those things that they have to do just because they're black?
Yeah, I would say, it's been the general consensus of, the systemic racism, the microaggressions, the outward racism has been the common thing I've been hearing from my clients, I would say. Yeah.
Oh wow! So even in well, again, we were not surprised that in pandemic times this stuff's still happening.
Mm.
Now, what is your, like I said, what is your mainly base that have you seen all these microaggressions? Does it happen more on men? Does it happen more on women, children, or if it's like an equal playing field that we all get it at the same time?
I would say it's equal. Yeah. Yeah. I can't even say, compared to genders or age or anything like that or sex. Like, I think it's a pretty equal playing field for all of us to experience microaggressions or outward racism.
What does that cause? Does it cause more people of color, more anxiety, more depression? What is the main cause of things like microaggressions, racism, and things? What's the the long term effects of that?
Yeah, I would say, the anxiety, that worry of like, I have to behave a certain way. I have to watch my back. I have to kind of, notice things a little bit more. Those low moods, it could kind of, translate into that negative self-talk of like, am I even worth it? Why are they at me? That hate of the skin color too, like colorism possibly. And also too, I find like a lot of people of color end up losing their voice a lot when their environments, like work environments, for example, when they're noticing there's lots of microaggressions happening or just like those snide remarks, and then they end up losing themselves. They end up losing their voice because they feel like, if I speak up, this is going to happen, so I'm just going to keep quiet.
Let's kind of dig in about losing their voices. A lot of people won't understand that it's not like technically you're losing your voice. It's pretty much that you have said things and you feel like you're silenced,
Mm,
which is the like they like even if it's something, especially in the workplace, that you go and you say, well, I don't think this is right or this is right, and even if you say it in a mild, medium, or angry manner, it feels like nobody's listening to you.
mhm.
And that's when people say like it brings silence, and a lot of people of color suffer through that, especially in the workplace. What do you advise people that go through that mostly every day?
Yeah. So there's a couple of things we talk about. Like, again, it comes down to self-care, taking care of yourself. So if you kind of like keep silent, you kind of, not notice what your body is doing, it starts to weigh on you, start to pile up. So making sure you're doing something to calm your body down. If it looks like after work, going for a walk or taking a bath or talking to a loved one or someone that you can vent to, releasing that, I think, is really important. And also that concept of radical acceptance of like, this is my reality. These are the people in my life. I don't know if I can actually change them. So where do I move from here? Right. There's some coworkers that are very open to discussion. Some coworkers are great to listen and they're allies. And then there's some situations you're in that they won't budge. They'll say like, no, that's not what I meant. That's a you problem. That's not a me problem. So then you have to say like, you know, do I want to stay in this position? Can I find another position? Or if I do stay in this position, how can I take care of myself through this to get through it? Right.
Yeah, it's definitely something that I think people, again, I would definitely recommend therapy. I myself have gotten therapy in a different amount of years. And I think that's something that, especially when you're a person of color, that you're trying to get ahead, like in
Mhm.
especially younger people, which is also one thing that I see that you just got out of college, you're trying to get this job, you have all these hopes and dreams and stuff like that, and then you realize that you're like, oh, I'm the only black person here. These people are doing things in different places that I'm like, oh, this is so uncomfortable for me. Like I wouldn't done that, and you don't want to be that person that says like, hey, this is not right, or you guys maybe should do this in a different way. And I think, yeah, the self care and also, like I said, motivating groups, I think it's a whole other thing. Because again, microaggressions and racism, we all go through it in different ways, but we all go through it in that specific way. And it's something that it's kind of curious to me. Do you know those things? Do you think they happen mostly in workspaces, or does it happen just in public scenery? What do you think it affects the most to people?
I would say probably the biggest impact would probably be at work because we're around those people all the time. So we're probably noticing a lot more of that. However, like if you are around people that maybe are not of color, they may say some things, and because you're friends with them or you know them, you may not speak up. So it can really happen anywhere, but I would say more so it's been at work because we're noticing a lot. And as a worker, you have to do something, you have to produce a product or do a task. And, usually those microaggressions come out when you ask questions or you have meetings or you're just in normal conversation.
Yeah, I think that's definitely part of a bigger conversation that people should have about mental health, because it's a different type of stigma when you're suffering to that and you're a certain race or color and things like that. So I definitely think that you're right on the money on that. So we're recording this on Valentine's Day, so just to let you know, people. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about people feeling lonely
Those
because they
people
don't have
feeling
a
lonely
date.
on Valentine's Day. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So we're talking about like how I know, and again, it may sound silly to people like, oh, it's Valentine's Day, it's just a holiday. It's not even a holiday, it's fake. But some people do that does affect them that they don't have a partner.
Yeah.
Do you see that a lot? And also, what do you recommend to that particular people that have that type of anxiety?
Yeah, I would say it's common for a lot of single people that don't have a partner, and then everyone around them is magically in love. When it wasn't like that of the rest of the 200 and or the 350, how many days? 351 days of the year, right? So it's yeah, it's hard. It's very hard for people to deal with that, especially if they've been single for a long time or recently single. So I would say I would recommend, making it a you day, right? If it means like creating something, a tradition just for you, creating tradition for you and your friends, celebrating something, or distract yourself throughout the day, or really avoid that social media and those posts about everything that's creating that worry and anxiety and those memories. But I think the biggest thing is that people are in control of this, right? You're in control of avoiding, you're in control of creating something special for yourself, you're in control of reaching out to your friends. So it's just remembering that of like you can do whatever you want today to make yourself feel good.
So please, to women and men, please block that girl that's just getting engaged. All those posts, ignore them. Don't book a restaurant because they're all full right now. I don't understand that, and they're overpriced. So just make sure you go to the 15 or the 15 or the 16 because it's just crazy right
Maybe
now.
not block people, but take a break from social
Just
media.
just one day you can do mute. I mean, you can mute them for a bit and just get that horrible Valentine's Day. Get yourself a chocolate bar at the dollar store because it's cheaper that way. Just handle that. So Stacy, if people want to find your counseling and explain to people what type of counseling you do, how you do it, so people can know more about it if they want to refer you.
Yeah, sure. So we're online. So it's www.esinam, ESINAM, counseling with two L's.com. And I'm just trying to think, did I say my website wrong? esinamcounselingincorporated.com. So we do, I mainly do trauma therapy. So people that have PTSD, sexualized trauma, racial trauma. So we focus on approaches to heal those parts. We focus on addiction recovery as well, and domestic violence, as well as any sort of like women issues. And I say we because I actually have an associate now. I think before I didn't have one. So her name is Zarin, and she's from Dubai. So she speaks English and Farsi. So she can counsel people that speak Farsi as well. And she and I do the same type of counseling. Our approaches vary from cognitive behavioral therapy, dialectical behavioral therapy, cognitive processing therapy, which is really good for trauma, intense trauma, narrative therapy, as well as some exposure work as well.
Oh, that's amazing. So Stacy, thank you for giving me the time. And again, just check out Stacy at her therapist. Go to the website. We'll have the links on the podcast. And anything, yeah, let us know. This is always open for you. Thank you so much, Stacy.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
Peace out, guys.